What caught my imagination about this project was the amazing script and the amazing director at the head of it, and of course, incredible Olivia Cooke. So all of that stuff was in place, and I was like, wow, it would just be a privilege to step into this. Then I started to get scared when I saw it, involved learning a bunch of stuff like the drums and sign language. But really, that journey was really enriching, and it opened my eyes up to a different way of being, a different way of connecting outside of language, a different kind of music, different way of expressing yourself through the drums, and I'm grateful for that experience.
Talk about working with the rest of the cast, both the beautiful Olivia beside you and the many members of the deaf community who were involved in the cast.
Well, we were blessed with an incredible cast. Olivia Cook, her reputation already precedes her. She's a young actress, but I think she's just one of the great actresses of our generation. And she just constantly pushed me to be better, to be more honest, to be more authentic. I was blown away working with her, and I'd love to do that again. Lauren Ridloff, who's having an incredible moment right now with Eternals, and the whole world's going to see what a special human being she is and what a special talented actress she is. We were lucky to have her as well, and we were lucky to have people like Jeremy Stone and the Toledo family who welcomed us into the deaf community on the East Coast and shared a bit of their culture for us in this film.
I play Lou, who is Riz's girlfriend, and they're in the punk band together.
And can you talk a little bit about what this film has taught you in terms of the experience of the deaf community and how that really is quite an extraordinary journey for Riz's character in particular?
Yeah, I think this film explores the fact that deafness is a culture and not a disability, and I think Darius highlights that really beautifully. And, I think someone like Riz, who is so incredible and so hyper-intelligent, to take on something like this and play it with such emotion and nuance, I think it's just really beautiful to watch.
Can you tell us just a little bit more about your character specifically and kind of what you feel she represents in this narrative arc?
I think she represents a comfortability, a codependence that sometimes you outgrow and don't need anymore. Don't know, I've not really thought about this that much.
You've also been blessed to work with so many fantastic, great filmmakers in recent years. Obviously, Spielberg, Ready Player One. Can you talk about having another fantastic director on board on this project?
Oh yeah, he's amazing. Darius is incredible. He operates with such grace and such sheer emotion all the time and humour that it was really wonderful. He's completely egoless, and he's just a very, very special person. I got the plane 2 hours ago. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Talking about special, obviously this is a film that has many special moments on screen. I'm curious, when you look back at your time on set, is there one moment that either makes you smile the most or had the most profound effect on you while making this film?
I think the end scene between Riz and I think that had the biggest effect on me. And then watching it, the whole middle act is just so incredibly beautiful, and I'm really excited for people to see that. I think it's unlike anything that I've seen before.
It's interesting. One thing that I realized is that when you speak with words, you can hide behind words. But when you speak with sign language, when you speak with your body, it's harder to hide. You have to express yourself more, and that itself was a really powerful experience for me, and I was privileged to have a glimpse into the sign community, into the deaf community and their culture.
My character is a deaf queer woman, a recovering drug addict. There's a lot of layers and intersectionalities of identity. And oftentimes the varying identities are overlooked. So it's nice to see it represented and the authenticity that was conveyed on the screen. It was great to be able to see varying roles in the screen, my character Jen, and varying characters as well. So it's just good to see the authenticity portrayed in this film.
And can you talk a little bit about what it was like working with the rest of the cast, particularly Riz in the lead role?
Oh, I really enjoyed working with Riz. I loved every minute of it. He really took the time to immerse himself in the role and to learn American Sign Language. And it was his job to learn. Everything that he did, he went over and above the expectations of his job. So we now can fully have a conversation in American Sign Language. And so he not only did his job, but he exceeded it. And it was a true pleasure to work with him.
And on the subject of representation, how important do you think it is for the experience of those with hearing impairment of one degree or another to be represented in this way on screen?
Me as a deaf individual, and everybody involved in this film, we typically are not included within the dominant culture. We are a marginalized group of individuals, so it was great to be able to see the inclusivity in this film and for us to be able to have our culture represented, our language represented. And it's very important to show it in this film and to raise this awareness. Our culture, it will be depicted in the film, so it'll be interesting to see what people pick up in the film.
And when audiences see the film here at TIFF and beyond, what are you hoping that they most take away from that experience, both an audience that may be from the deaf community and a hearing audience?
Representation, like you mentioned, the authenticity, that is paramount. Just to have the diverse representation is important. And to have this depicted, I just think to have this awareness shared is paramount.
My final question, what does it mean for you to be a part of TIFF, this beautiful celebration of cinema?
It's an amazing, out of this world experience. Everything is new from start to finish for me. So to be able to see the whole process from start to finish, it's an honor to be a part of this.
Writing is funny because it has this mysterious thing that happens where you think you know why you want to tell a story, and then you kind of learn why you really wanted to tell it maybe later. And in this case, I wrote it for many, many years with my brother. I started myself and ended up co-writing it with my brother, and came to some realizations about it down the line. But it began as a real, what drew me to it was to tell a love story around this idea of sound in 3 acts, because it's told through the perspective of someone's hearing. So this whole idea of bringing sound to cinema in a way that I hadn't seen before really made me want to, and sound as it related to the psyche. Because so that was really just a cinematic kind of idea that I wanted to explore. And as I wrote it, I started to realize some things about why I was writing it that were more profound, that I'll let people find out for themselves. But it began as just this idea of exploring sound in this way.
You pulled a lot of people from the community and learning from them as you go along, I assume.
Learning from the deaf community? Yes. The deaf community is really an amazing group of people that don't get seen very often and don't get thought about very often. And when they allow you into their community and into that culture, it's really an extraordinary feeling. So for me, I felt privileged to just be a part of it, and that they let me be a part of it. And it wasn't ever a question for me, because if you're telling a story about deaf people, of course you want deaf people. But I also really wanted to learn about the culture of deafness, and that's one thing that was like a real revelation for me, which is that it's not about a physical condition. It's a culture, and it's extraordinary to have been a part of that, and not a part of the culture because I'm not, but invited in. Yeah, it's amazing, in fact. And so, yeah, we have a lot of members of the deaf community, and everyone who's, and it stretched my comfort, because I had to learn how to communicate, and I had to learn ASL, at least a little or enough. Riz, who's in the movie, learned ASL for months and became, some degree of fluent which was really amazing because he has a better brain than I do. It's my brain, but he worked really hard, and it's just extraordinary. Half of the language, half of sign language happens up here. A lot of it's in your hands, but half of it's here. So you have to learn to get good with your emotions. Riz experiences deafness in the movie, and in order to approximate that experience, he was actually wearing earpieces that created white noise so that he couldn't even hear his own voice. And so he was literally in real time playing with the experience of sound. And of course, in the cutting of it, and that may have been what you were referring to, yes, the sound design is a massive part of the movie. I mean, it's a real character of the movie. And we play with sound, but it's hopefully done with an element of grace so that you don't necessarily feel it. You know what I mean? You're not sitting here going, wow, that's zingy. It's really a deep emotional experience of sound in a way that brings us into a visceral experience, not necessarily a wow experience, Sometimes it's wow, and in fact, because it's something we haven't quite heard before. It's really a special experience to enter into film in that way. It was like a whole other character.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey You